Hey everybody, welcome back. I thought tonight I would just talk about Matt Herren and his take on Bassmaster. He was just on a couple podcasts, one on Slick Johnson's and one on Ike's. I'll put links in the description below. Yeah, he was talking about his disqualification and him leaving Bassmaster Elites and how he had that lie detector test and it took him like an hour and a half and it was kind of shady. And one thing he brought up was about the Anderson Media Group that owns Bassmaster now, which, if you noticed recently too, a few of their events are also sponsored by Whataburger and TNT Fireworks, which is also owned by the Anderson Media Group. And Chase Anderson, the CEO of Bassmaster now, is the grandson of the original founder of the company. So he's running Bassmaster. Not sure he has any kind of fishing experience, but they're trying to make a profit. So according to what Matt Herren was saying, and Ike alluded to this as well, that the Anderson Group met with Garmin at the beginning of the year, or was it the end of last year, and made a behind the closed doors deal to get some decent amount of money from Garmin if they left live scope alone and left forward facing sonar alone. And miraculously, Bassmaster didn't do anything with forward facing sonar. Now, I don't agree with banning forward facing sonar. I just want to get that out there. I like forward facing sonar. If you can't use it or you don't want to use it, then don't. But these new guys coming up, it's a new technology. To me, it's no different than sight fishing and casting to it. They're not always going to hit. Just because you see them doesn't mean they're going to hit it. But with that aside, and my own personal opinion about it, I guess they, Bassmaster last year, after a Champlain event, or during a Champlain event, they had a meeting and asked a survey about certain things, and one of them was forward-facing sonar. According to Matt Herren, a third of them wanted to use it, a third of them didn't want to use it, and a third of them really didn't care either way. Well, Matt went on to describe how he had his own poll with the guys, and he said about 70% of the returning anglers want to see some kind of action done with forward-facing sonar, whether it's banning it or modifying it. And I guess they all came to the consensus that they were going to see if they could get it for like half the tournaments would have forward-facing sonar, the other half wouldn't. That's not a bad idea. The whole point of this, though, is like it seems that this group, Anderson Media Corporation running Bass, is really, I don't want to say corrupt, but there's like shady stuff going on. According to Matt, after they did the no entry fees, got rid of the no entry fees for this year, they ended up having to sign a new contract. And this new contract they were given, they had 4 days to sign. And on this contract, under, I got it right here, under C7 Angler Code of Conduct, it says anglers participating in any bass sanctioned event shall observe this code of conduct. Anglers shall at all times conduct themselves in a professional manner that demonstrates integrity, honor, and respect towards fellow competitors, tournament staff, and general public, and does not reflect unfavorably on bass. So in other words, they really can't complain about bass. They can't speak out against it, or they'll be penalized. They really can't say much. And before they had this, when they were paying dues or entrance fees to go into the tournaments, they were more or less independent contractors, and there was a federal law that protected them against any kind of retaliation for First Amendment rights, so more or less they could say what they want. Now that they're not paying entrance fees, they're more or less not employees, but they're bound under this new contract by Bassmaster that they can be liable for anything they say against Bass. They also have some examples of unacceptable behavior by the competitors, and let me list a couple of those. 1, you can't have heated public disagreements with Bass officials, other competitors, and fans and volunteers during an event. Public attacks through media, including social media, upon the integrity of Bass rules or officials. You can't have public comments that an angler knows or should reasonably know will harm the reputation of bass or bass sponsors or fellow competitors. You publicly questioning or criticizing a tournament official or official decision, ruling, or penalty except through the proper channels. Any sharing of non-public information marked as confidential or private communications by Bass. And offensive or slanderous comments with racial, cultural, or sexual overtones regarding event officials. Now, to me, it sure sounds like Bass is acting like a dictator, and you can't say anything against him. You can't speak up. You just have to be a good angler. So I guess Bass, since you signed his contract, now you just give up all your freedom of speech. I don't know why you can't speak out against an organization. They must be really worried about what they're doing to have to make a contract that their own fishermen can't speak out against them. Maybe when some of the fishermen last year were complaining about the entrance fees and not wanting to have to pay an entrance fee, well, that was 2 years ago, maybe they should have been careful what they wished for. I mean, it's almost like Bass was waiting for this to happen so they could sign this new contract and have more control over these fishermen. It is painfully obvious that this group aren't fishermen, and don't know anything about fishing, else they probably wouldn't be running it this way. And it's funny how the rules change and are different for different people. But from what I understand from what Matt said on the podcast, that, and Slick Johnson mentioned this as well, that Dave Mercer isn't an employee of Bass, so he's not bound. Well, first of all, he won't be bound by this because this is angler participation contract, but he's not bound by the same stuff. So that's why I said before, I don't know how Dave Mercer can talk crap about Bass and other anglers on his podcast, but if he's not bound by these same rules, then he's able to, and he's able to say what he wants and create any kind of controversy and draw up hits and likes for himself. I think as the MC for all these tournaments, I think he should be held at a different standard, and he shouldn't be able to just rant and rave about other anglers, and especially have current anglers on there talking about other anglers that left, not mentioning any names like Scott Martin. It's just a real shame where this is going and how it's headed. And like I said in previous videos, like, I'm not really supporting Bassmaster as a whole. I support certain fishermen that I like, and I still like Scott Martin, still like Matt Herren, and I hope both of them do great. I know Scott seems to be enjoying life, and Matt was happy to be home at Easter, so they're not bound by this crazy bullshit. It's a shame because it was a good organization at one time. The organization was what every angler that wanted to fish professionally ended up wanting to go in, was the Bassmaster Elites. And it seems like they're running that into the ground. So I think Matt Herren's right on a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of stuff him and Slick Johnson talked about are very valid facts. Some of it can't be proven because they can't talk about it, or they certainly don't want to reveal some of their sources. But they mentioned, you'll have to watch their videos, they mentioned some shady stuff going on. And I appreciate Matt Herren being honest with us and letting us know how he feels now that he's not part of Bassmaster. And maybe Bassmaster will start to see some of the videos and see how some of the customers are reacting, and maybe change their ways a little bit and maybe get more viewership. There are a lot of people that fish and watch this stuff. They need to think of all the people involved, not just these people that have $100,000 boats and cater to them, and cater to the people watching FS1, cater to the everyday father, son, mother, daughter that are out there fishing just to have a good time and are still buying tackle. They might not be buying thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff, but they're still buying tackle and they're still consumers. So Bassmaster, start thinking about not just the profit and not just about the bottom line, because once you start thinking about the bottom line and that's it, the rest of it just goes to shit. That's all I have to say for now, and I wish the best of luck to Matt Herren. I wish the best of luck to Scott Martin. I like both of them, and I hope they do well whatever their careers lead them to now. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. If you like it, like, subscribe. If you have any comments or you disagree or you agree, leave a comment below. I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you in the next one.